Ukraine needs men to fight Russia. France promises to send some soldiers of its own. But then, where are the men? Media, who could question the two, doesn't question who they all are fooling, and how long would they keep fooling us? Welcome to yet another edition of Wiseheads. I am your host Ashish Shukla. We now hear that Ukraine is looking for Parliament's approval next month on a bill which would reduce the conscription age from 27 to 25 years. Ukraine says by this method they would raise 500,000 new soldiers to fight the Russians. Now a simple calculation would tell us it's not possible. First of all, before the war, Ukraine's population was 40 million people. Half of them, or around 20 million, they lost to Russia due to its eastern part defecting to Moscow. Since a credible estimate tells us that over 1 million fighting men are either killed or injured, a few millions have fled out of Ukraine's borders, there are tens of thousands of women, children and old people to account for. How could Ukraine still claim that it would raise 500,000 new soldiers for the front? Then, if the Parliament clears the bill and the conscription begins in June, these men won't be fighting fit before the end of the year. That is, we are looking at a time horizon of 10 months. Given the ferocity of Russia's attacks, this could all be over by then. The reduced conscription age is a desperate measure. We could thus safely deduce that Ukraine has run out of men. Doesn't it tell you how pathetically Ukraine is presently placed vis-a-vis Russia? Lately, France is also making a lot of noise. France President Emmanuel Macron announced after a meeting of Europe's leaders that they are planning to send their own troops in Ukraine's defense. No sooner had he made this announcement, the European leaders quickly denied this was on the cards, that they were not sending troops to Ukraine. But Macron is adamant that he would send 30,000 troops to Ukraine. Now, France journals have ruled it out. A poll on the matter showed 68% of French people are against the move to send their own men to die on Ukrainian front. One doesn't know how these 30,000 men would meet a different fate than what Ukrainians are presently experiencing. Also, if one could have the logistics of this pipe dream of an operation, Mr. President, one could understand why France is fuming at Russia. One, along with Germany, it has held the levers of control of Europe since World War II, with Germany now having completely surrendered its sovereignty to Washington. France is left alone and wishes to assume the role of a leader of Europe. It hopes to have the Baltic nations and other minions of Europe by its side in stoking this Russophobia. Besides, France is smarting at the disdain with which African nations, one by one, are throwing off its yoke. Burkina Faso, Chad, CAR, Niger, Mali, all have sent French men and army packing out of their lands. France believes these African nations are rebelling because they are backed by Russia. It's stirring trouble in Russia's neighborhood in Georgia, Armenia, Moldova and Ukraine to keep Russia mired. Since Napoleonic wars, it has a score to settle with Russia. Besides, Ukraine's loss would mean 30% of Europe's wheat supply would shift under Russia's control. France remains largely an agricultural country, and its powerful lobby is worried at this outcome of the Ukrainian war. The truth is, neither Ukraine nor France is in any position to take on Russia. Russia is playing an attritional war, and such wars are only won by countries with geographical depth and enough men and ammunition to sustain it. Ukraine no longer has men or ammunition to sustain it. West and France could fight a short and crisp war, but the moment it drags on, it loses the plot. The same happened in Vietnam as it occurred in Syria, Yemen and Afghanistan. Russia knows it, and it is in no hurry. It's asking Ukraine or West to do the running which they presently are incapable of sustaining. That's why this Ukraine conflict is as good as won by Russia. That's all in today's edition of Wiseheads. This is your host Ashish Shukla, who now takes your leave. Till we meet again, it's goodbye and good luck.